Hey everyone! Picture this. You're standing at a checkout counter holding a penny that looks no different from the countless others you've seen all your life. You slide it across without a second thought. But what if that single coin in your hand carried the weight of history, an untold story of mistakes, survival, rarity, and unbelievable value? What if that very penny was none other than the elusive 1973 D Lincoln cent? A coin minted at the Denver Mint yet wrapped in mystery. A coin so rare and so uniquely tied to minting anomalies that its value today has been estimated at a jaw-dropping $23 million, transforming it from the lowest denomination in American coinage to one of the most valuable collectible treasures in the world. And the fascination begins when you realize that while billions of Lincoln cents rolled off the presses in the early 1970s, only a fraction contained errors significant enough to set them apart. But even among those rarities, the 1973 D penny stands tall, because every indication suggests that a handful of pieces struck in that year bore errors so dramatic or so unique that they elevate this coin into a legendary status. And we begin by peeling back the layers of what makes such a coin so desirable, starting with the minting process itself. Because coins aren't born perfect, they are the products of machinery, of dies that stamp the design into blank planchets, of press operators who calibrate equipment, and of metal compositions that change with time as economic pressures dictate. And in the case of 1973, America was facing fluctuating copper prices, the mint was under pressure to maintain output, and quality control was strained, which opened the door for errors to sneak into circulation. And it's these errors that are at the heart of the $23 million valuation, because when we speak about coin errors, we're not referring to scratches from circulation or accidental damage by collectors. No, we're talking about mint-made varieties that occur at the very moment of creation, anomalies that forever set one coin apart from the billions of others, anomalies like double dies where the design is imprinted twice, giving Lincoln's profile a shadow or making letters like Liberty or "In God We Trust" appear doubled, anomalies like off-center strikes where part of the design is missing, leaving a crescent of blank planchet exposed, anomalies like clipped planchets where the blank itself is improperly cut, leaving a bike-shaped curve missing from the coin, anomalies like broad strikes, die cracks, and cuts that reveal the pressures and missteps of the minting machinery. And among the most tantalizing possibilities for the 1973 D penny are transitional errors where the wrong metal planchet is used, perhaps struck on leftover bronze planchets from a previous composition or struck on dime stock by mistake, instantly creating a coin that should not exist. And it is this impossibility that collectors crave, because a transitional error is like catching lightning in a bottle. It proves a breakdown in a highly controlled process. And because so few survive, the demand for them among collectors is insatiable, and if one of these exists on a 1973 D penny, then the astronomical value of $23 million makes sense. But rarity is not enough on its own to propel a coin into such heights. Condition matters too, and that's where grading comes in. Because a coin preserved in mint state, untouched by circulation, free of scratches and wear, stands head and shoulders above one that's been passed around for decades. So when a 1973 D penny surfaces with pristine luster, sharply struck details, and dazzling eye appeal, certified by grading services like PCGS or NGC at grades of MS67, MS68, or even higher, the bidding wars at auction become ferocious. Because elite collectors know that such a coin is not only beautiful but practically irreplaceable, and beyond condition there is the allure of provenance, the story of where a coin has been, who discovered it, how it came to light after years in obscurity, and stories fuel value just as much as rarity and condition, because collectors don't just buy metal, they buy history, they buy a narrative they can retell. And few stories are more dramatic than that of a humble penny once exchanged in grocery stores or tucked into a piggy bank, now commanding a price tag higher than luxury mansions or supercars. And that is why the 1973 D penny holds such power, because it represents the incredible idea that something so small and overlooked can rival the greatest treasures of history. And to fully appreciate why this coin matters, you have to place it in the broader context of the Lincoln Cent series, a series that began in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, and over the decades it has seen countless varieties, changes in composition, shifts in minting technology, and legions of collectors who obsess over every die crack and doubling. And within that century-long narrative, certain years stand out, like the 1909 SVDB, the 1914D, the 1922 No-D, the 1955 Double Die, and the 1969 S Double Die, each commanding tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. And in the pantheon of these giants, the 1973 D penny has emerged as a modern legend because, unlike those earlier rarities, it comes from an era where billions were produced, making its survival even more miraculous. And it demonstrates that rarity doesn't always belong to the distant past. Sometimes it's hidden in the modern pocket change of recent memory, and that brings us back to the human element, because the thrill of coin collecting is built on stories like this, stories of ordinary people stumbling across extraordinary finds, like a kid opening a roll of pennies from the bank and noticing something odd, like a retiree sifting through a jar of coins and spotting an unusual shine, like a metal detectorist uncovering a penny in the dirt only to realize it's worth millions. And this possibility drives people to keep searching, because the next 1973 D penny could be sitting in circulation even now, waiting for sharp eyes to notice it. And the allure of the hunt ensures that coins like this one capture global attention. And when auction houses announce the discovery or sale of such a rarity, the headlines travel fast, drawing mainstream coverage and igniting waves of excitement among both seasoned collectors and curious newcomers. And this surge of demand adds fuel to the fire of valuation, because the coin market, like any other market, is driven by supply and demand. And when supply is virtually non-existent and demand is through the roof, values skyrocket into the millions. And in the case of the 1973 D penny, $23 million is not just a figure pulled from thin air, it is the product of these dynamics playing out at the highest level, where collectors with deep pockets compete for ownership of something that transcends the material and enters the realm of legend. And if you stop to think about it, that's what makes coin collecting so magical: the blending of history, artistry, economics, and chance, the way a tiny disc of copper can carry with it the weight of an entire nation's story, the way one mistake at the Denver Mint in 1973 could ripple through decades and end up rewriting the record books of numismatic value. And the deeper we dive into this story, the more layers we uncover, from the specific minting conditions of the early 1970s, to the economic pressures of rising copper costs, to the personalities of the collectors and dealers who chase these rarities, to the very psychology of value itself. Because why do we assign such staggering worth to a penny? Is it just metal and rarity, or is it something deeper? Perhaps it is the symbolism of finding greatness in the smallest of places. Perhaps it is the human desire to own a piece of history that no one else can. And perhaps it is the eternal thrill of the hunt, the belief that treasure could be hiding anywhere. And so the saga of the 1973 D penny worth $23 million continues to inspire, continues to be whispered in coin shops, debated in collector forums, and immortalized in auction catalogs, reminding us all that the next great discovery could be waiting in our pockets. And that is why stories like this are worth sharing. So if you enjoyed diving into the mystery and magic of this incredible coin, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and keep watching, because the next story might just reveal that the fortune you've been dreaming of is already in your hands. Next, 1974 D1 cent USA coin. Today, we are going to unravel the incredible story of the 1974 D1 cent coin that has shocked the coin collecting world and beyond, with a mind-blowing value of $4 million, all because of its unique errors and mistakes that transformed an ordinary penny into a historical artifact of unimaginable worth and as you stick with me through this journey you will understand why this particular coin has collectors, historians, investors, and enthusiasts buzzing with excitement, and why its backstory is a perfect storm of minting errors, material anomalies, production circumstances, limited survival, and the sheer unpredictability of how such coins manage to endure in circulation or in private holdings until their astonishing discovery years later. So let's start by appreciating the year 1974 itself, when the United States Mint was experimenting with alternative metals, because copper prices were climbing and discussions were swirling about replacing the traditional copper composition of pennies with cheaper materials like aluminum, which led to some extremely limited test strikes of aluminum cents and created the foundation of one of the most legendary modern coin controversies. But alongside that major experimentation in Philadelphia and Denver, errors also slipped into regular production runs, and the Denver Mint in particular, where the 1974 penny was struck, saw its fair share of issues ranging from double dies to off-center strikes, improper alloy mixes, and planchet anomalies, and within that environment the legendary 1974 error penny emerged, a coin that collectors today are willing to pay $4 million for because it combines a mix of mystery, rarity, and condition that makes it nearly impossible to match. And one of the most intriguing aspects of this coin is the possibility that it was struck on the wrong planchet, perhaps an experimental aluminum planchet that somehow escaped the mint's tight controls, or possibly a leftover bronze planchet from an earlier batch that was improperly mixed, creating a coin with unusual weight, color, and luster that sharp-eyed collectors identified as something extraordinary. And when a coin features such anomalies, it's not just the physical difference that adds value, but the historical narrative, because it ties into a period of experimentation at the Mint that remains one of the most talked about eras in American coinage. And another factor that propels the 1974 penny into multi-million-dollar territory is die errors such as double die obverse varieties, where design elements like the date or the word liberty or the motto "In God We Trust" appear doubled to the naked eye, and these dramatic visual mistakes are instantly recognizable and fetch incredible premiums at auction. And while not every 1974 double die commands millions, when paired with other rare traits like being struck on the wrong planchet or featuring an off-center strike combined with pristine mint state preservation, the value skyrockets to figures like $4 million, because the coin becomes not just a rarity, but a one-of-a-kind showcase of minting history, artistry, and imperfection, and collectors live for that kind of uniqueness. And we also need to consider off-center strikes, which occur when the coin blank is not properly aligned in the striking chamber, causing the design to appear shifted, sometimes dramatically, with large blank areas of planchet exposed. And the more dramatic the misalignment, while still retaining identifiable design features, the higher the desirability, especially if the coin was kept in mint state condition for decades without circulation, which is extremely rare, making such errors near mythical in status when combined with the already complex history of the 1974 minting year. And it doesn't stop there, because clipped planchets, where the coin blank is punched improperly leaving curved missing sections, can also add to rarity, as can broad strikes where the collar fails and the coin spreads out unnaturally wide, and even wrong metal errors like a copper penny struck on a dime planchet or struck on aluminum when the Mint was experimenting with alternatives. And each of these kinds of mistakes is highly collectible, but when several coincide in one specimen, as is believed with the multimillion-dollar 1974 penny, the result is astronomical valuation at auctions where elite collectors compete furiously, driving up the final hammer price. And another key dimension in this saga is condition, because collectors value coins on the Sheldon scale from 1 to 70, and a coin graded MS67 or higher with full red luster preserved from 1974 is already scarce. But when such a coin also exhibits major minting errors, the combination becomes explosive for value, and auction houses have seen collectors battle for hours over these once-in-a-lifetime opportunities, pushing coins like the 1974D to that incrediable $4 million level. And now let's also imagine the thrill of the discovery, because often these legendary coins sit unnoticed in someone's change or in an inherited jar of coins until a curious eye or experienced collector spots something on. Perhaps the weight feels lighter, the color doesn't quite match, or the date looks doubled, and suddenly that seemingly worthless penny becomes the focus of numismatic attention, with experts verifying its authenticity, grading companies encapsulating it in tamper-proof holders, and documenting its error in population reports that confirm just how few exist, if any others at all, and rarity is the cornerstone of value in coins. So when you have a coin like the 1974D penny that is possibly unique or one of only a tiny handful, rarity drives value into millions, because no amount of demand can produce more examples. They either exist or they don't. And collectors who want one must outbid each other, pushing prices higher than anyone could have imagined. And beyond errors and physical traits, there is also the story factor, because collectors and investors love a good story, and the 1974D penny's connection to the aluminum sit experiments, to the Denver Mint's reputation for unusual varieties, and to the broader inflationary pressures of the 1970s that forced changes in coinage, all give it a narrative that transcends the coin itself, making it not just metal but history frozen in time. And when you combine history, rarity, error, condition, and story, you get a perfect storm that explains how a coin that once had a face value of 1 cent now carries a price tag of $4 million. And let's not forget the role of auctions and media coverage, because when such a coin hits the auction block, it becomes newsworthy, covered in articles, television segments, blogs, and collector forums. And this publicity amplifies the allure, making even casual observers fascinated by how a penny can be worth millions, and encouraging new collectors to check their pocket change, hoping to find their own treasure. And this cycle of discovery, publicity, and demand only fuels higher prices, because it expands the collector base and ensures fierce competition for the rarest pieces. And to truly appreciate why the 1974D penny reached $4 million, we need to dive deeper into the psychology of collecting, because at its core, collecting is about owning something rare, unique, and tied to history. And for ultra-wealthy collectors, money is no object when it comes to acquiring a centerpiece coin that no one else in the world can own. And this exclusivity drives bidding wars that seem irrational to outsiders, but are perfectly logical in the high-stakes world of numismatics. And we must also consider the investment side, because coins are tangible assets that can be held, displayed, insured, and passed down, and unlike stocks, they carry intrinsic artistic and historical value. And with a finite supply of errors, like the 1974D penny, long-term appreciation is almost guaranteed, making them not just collectibles, but wealth preservation tools in uncertain economic times. And if you follow the trail of famous auction results, you'll see this pattern play out again and again, as rare cents, nickels, dimes, and quarters break records year after year, with the 1974D penny now standing as one of the crown jewels among modern rarities, valued at $4 million, because of that blend of scarcity, intrigue, and error complexity that no other coin has quite matched. And the lesson for all of us is clear: always check your change, inspect old coin jars, and never dismiss a coin simply because it looks ordinary at first glance, because hidden in plain sight could be the next multi-million-dollar discovery, just waiting for a lucky finder to recognize its worth and change their life forever. So, if you enjoy diving into the epic tale of the 1974D penny. Next, 1998 Lincoln penny. The most exciting deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins, where ordinary pocket change sometimes hides extraordinary treasures. And today, we are uncovering the remarkable story of the 1998 1-cent coin that has shocked collectors and auction houses worldwide because of its unbelievable value, reaching as high as $1 million, all thanks to the unique errors, minting mistakes, and hidden mysteries that set it apart from billions of regular pennies and make it an object of fascination for both casual hobbyists and seasoned numismatists. So imagine holding in your hand a coin that most people would overlook or even toss aside into a jar, and yet that very coin has the potential to change someone's life forever because hidden within its copper-plated zinc composition are details that transform it into one of the most valuable and legendary cents in history. And to truly appreciate why this 1998 penny is worth such staggering amounts of money, we have to explore the world of mint errors, the circumstances at the U.S. Mint during the late 1990s, the kinds of varieties that occurred in that year, and the countless possibilities collectors consider when analyzing this small but mighty piece of American currency. So let's start with the basic fact that the 1998 cent was struck in an era where billions of coins were being produced each year, and the chances of mistakes happening on the production line increased as the demand for coins soared. And while most of those pennies came out perfectly aligned with the Lincoln Memorial reverse and the portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, a handful carried imperfections that turned them into legends. Errors like double dies where the design is imprinted twice slightly offset, creating doubling that can be seen on the letters in Liberty, Indiana, God We Trust, or even the date itself. And these kinds of errors in 1998 produced some varieties that collectors drool over. Then we have transitional errors, coins struck using older dies or experimental hubs which create mismatched designs, like the famous wide AM and close AM varieties seen on the reverse between the letters A and M in America, where some 1998 cents show the wide separation that was supposed to be used only for proof coins. Yet somehow a small number entered circulation, and when discovered they became instant rarities commanding thousands of dollars each. But what makes the $1 million example even more legendary is the possibility that it combines multiple errors or showcases a dramatic misprint that survive quality control. And think about the nature of minting mistakes like off-center strikes where part of the design is missing or shifted, broad strikes where the coin expands beyond its normal diameter, or clipped planchets where a portion of the metal is cut off creating a crescent shape. And then there are die cracks and cuts where parts of the die break and leave raised lumps or lines across the coin. Each of these anomalies can add huge value depending on rarity and eye appeal, and the 1998 penny at the heart of our story supposedly combines a mix of extraordinary features including possibly a double die, a dramatic wide AM reverse, and a striking error that went unnoticed until sharp-eyed collectors brought it to attention, fueling a frenzy in the market where auction houses reported jaw-dropping bids climbing higher and higher until it reached that $1 million milestone. And this is where the possibilities multiply, because in the coin world the value is not only about the error itself but also about demand, condition, and provenance. So if a 1998 cent error is discovered in pristine mint state condition with a clear and dramatic mistake, it instantly becomes a trophy piece. And when multiple wealthy collectors compete for ownership, the price can skyrocket beyond imagination. Now let's dig into why 1998 in particular is such an interesting year, because it sits right before the 2000 close AM transition period and right after the 1992 close AM discovery, making it a key year for design experimentation and hub transitions at the mint. And when rare varieties, like the 1998 wide AM, started surfacing, it opened the floodgates for treasure hunters searching through rolls of pennies from banks hoping to find one. And every time one was found, it reinforced the idea that the 1998 cent could contain hidden gold among its billions. But here's the catch. Not every wide AM is worth a fortune. Most sell for a few hundred to a few $1,000s depending on grade. Yet the true grail is the coin that has both rarity and uniqueness, and that's where errors stacked together become exponentially valuable. So imagine a 1998 wide AM penny also struck with doubling on the obverse, perhaps showing doubled Liberty or a double date. And then add a high-grade designation like MS67 or MS68 red. Suddenly you have a one-of-a-kind rarity that collectors will battle over at auction. And when something is truly one-of-one, it breaks all price expectations. leading to shocking hammer prices like $1 million for a humble cent. And this isn't just speculation, because history has shown that rare cents with the right combination of condition, variety, and error have sold for staggering amounts. With examples like the 1943 copper cent and the 1955 double die proving that small coins can carry immense value, and the 1998 cent follows in that legendary tradition, carrying with it the thrill of discovery and the excitement of hidden value. And this is why collectors never stop searching through change, never stop checking those bank rolls, and never stop hoping that the next coin they flip over reveals something incredible, because the 1998 cent story is living proof that life-changing treasure might be sitting in your pocket unnoticed. And beyond the technical errors, there's also the mystique of chance. The story of how such a coin survived, slipped past mint inspectors, and circulated among millions of ordinary coins until it landed in the hands of someone who recognized its uniqueness, and that story itself adds to the legend and desirability, because owning such a coin is like holding a piece of minting history, a tangible error that encapsulates the imperfections of human and mechanical processes. A frozen moment where the machinery of the mint faltered and left behind a treasure. And if we dig deeper into the possibilities, we can speculate about even more dramatic mistakes like wrong planchet errors where a cent was struck on a dime blank or even a foreign coin blank, which would give it the wrong weight and composition, or double denomination errors where a coin is struck over another denomination creating a mind-bending hybrid. And if such a spectacular version exists in the 1998 series, it could easily justify $1 million price tag because of how unprecedented and unique it would be. And that's the magic of coin collecting, where speculation fuels excitement and every discovered variety pushes collectors to dream bigger. And the 1998 penny represents the pinnacle of that dream, a coin that most see as ordinary yet within its date hides the potential for extraordinary riches. So as we tell this story, it's not just about the errors and values, but also about the passion and persistence of collectors, who dedicate countless hours to studying, searching, and preserving these tiny pieces of history. And the 1998 million dollar penny stands as a reward for that passion, proof that attention to detail can unlock hidden fortunes. And to wrap it all together, imagine the thrill of being the person who discovered such a coin, one day casually sorting through spare change or carefully examining rolls from the bank and suddenly realizing that the coin in your hand is no ordinary cent but one of the rarest and most valuable in existence. The rush of excitement, the validation of patience, and the life-changing potential of turning a 1-cent piece into $1 million windfall. And that is the essence of the 1998 1-cent story, a tale of errors, mistakes, and possibilities that elevate an ordinary coin into the realm of legends, where collectors chase history and fortune in equal measure. And as long as people keep looking, dreaming, and believing in the magic of coin collecting, the story of the 1998 penny worth $1 million will continue to inspire treasure hunters everywhere who now know that sometimes the smallest coin can carry the biggest value imaginable. Next, 1991 penny. We deep dive into the fascinating world of rare and error coins, where small pieces of metal that most people pass by every day in change can sometimes hold unimaginable hidden value. And today we are going to uncover the story of a 1991 1-cent coin that has shocked the numismatic world by reaching an astonishing price tag of $2 million. A jaw-dropping figure that makes collectors, treasure hunters, and history lovers all pay attention, because while the penny is often thought of as the lowest denomination in United States coinage, carrying little more than sentimental or face value, certain mistakes and rare minting circumstances can transform it into one of the most valuable treasures circulating today. So let's take a closer look at what makes the 1991 penny so special. What kinds of errors could make it worth such incredible money, and how these conditions come to exist in the first place. Because once you understand how these coins are made and how easily rare variations slip through the minting process, you'll realize why even the most ordinary-looking coin in your pocket could actually turn into a multi-million-dollar discovery if the right combination of errors and anomalies appear on it. And the 1991 1-cent piece is a shining example of this phenomenon. Now the 1991 penny belongs to the Lincoln Memorial Cent series, which had been minted since 1959, featuring Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, struck primarily in copper-plated zinc after the 1982 composition change. And while millions upon millions of these were produced in both Philadelphia and Denver, only a very tiny number have the type of errors or rare traits that set them apart from the rest. The most eye-catching factor that can send the value of a 1991 penny into the stratosphere is a dramatic mint error. And these can come in many forms, such as double die obverse, where the doubling of Lincoln's features, date, or lettering can be clearly seen, creating a striking and valuable variation, or off-center strikes where the design is visibly misaligned, giving the coin an odd but collectible appearance, or broad strikes where the rim detail is missing, or even planchet errors where the wrong metal or wrong size blank was used by mistake. And in some astonishingly rare cases, coins can be struck on planchets intended for dimes, nickels, or even foreign coinage, all of which create an anomaly that collectors are willing to pay huge sums for. The 1991 penny that has been valued at $2 million likely combines several of these error features, perhaps a double die combined with a wrong planchet strike or even a transitional composition error, since errors involving the mix between copper and zinc planchets during the changeover years of the 1980s and early 1990s have been known to command staggering prices. Because a coin made from the wrong alloy not only stands out visually under expert analysis, but also serves as a unique piece of minting history, and collectors with deep pockets are constantly in search of these one-of-a-kind coins, adding to the competitive bidding that drives prices sky high. But beyond the mechanical errors themselves lies the element of rarity, and rarity is the backbone of numismatic value. For every billion coins produced, only a handful might exhibit the right conditions to be considered rare. And of that handful, only one or two might reach such immaculate preservation, often graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC as mint state or proof-like, which multiplies their desirability. And if you imagine how many 1991 pennies were casually spent, tossed in jars, lost in drawers, or damaged through circulation, it's easy to understand why a pristine error coin from that year becomes almost mythical. And when such a coin enters an auction, the excitement and competition drive its final price to levels most would never expect. And that's exactly what makes this story so electrifying. Because $2 million for a penny seems absurd until you realize the coin is not just a piece of change, but a historical artifact created by mistake and preserved against all odds. And that brings us into the human side of the story, the thrill of discovery, because many collectors dream of finding one of these rare pieces in circulation. Imagine opening a roll of 1991 pennies from the bank, or sifting through an old coin jar, and spotting a strange doubling on the date or a curious weight difference that hints at a wrong planchet. Such a discovery would instantly turn an ordinary day into a life-changing moment. And indeed, many record-setting error coins were originally found not by experts, but by ordinary people with sharp eyes and a bit of luck, making the world of coin collecting uniquely accessible. But the $2 million valuation isn't just about error type and rarity. It's also about market demand, historical context, and provenance, meaning if a particular 1991 penny has been highlighted in numismatic literature, studied for years, and recognized as a one-of-a-kind mint blunder, it gains legendary status, and this status invites wealthy collectors to compete, not only because of the coin's intrinsic uniqueness, but also because of the prestige of owning such a famous item. Think of it as owning a rare painting or gemstone. Except in this case, it's a 1-cent piece that encapsulates history, artistry, and chance, and the possibility of mistakes doesn't stop with obvious visible errors either. Sometimes coins are misaligned just slightly, or carry microscopic doubling only seen under magnification, yet even subtle variations can be enough to spark collector frenzy when authenticated, and in the realm of high-stakes auctions even tiny differences in strike, luster, and planchet quality can swing values by hundreds of thousands of dollars. So when we talk about a 1991 penny worth $2 million, we are talking about the perfect storm of rarity, condition, error type, market timing, and collector competition, all converging to create a record-setting piece. But beyond that, this story teaches us something larger, that value is not always tied to size or face value but to uniqueness, history, and human fascination. And that's why a coin smaller than a dime and worth only 1 cent in the economy can become a treasure worth millions in the collector's world. And if you're wondering what to look for in your own pocket change, remember that doubled lettering, off-center strikes, unusual weights, and odd coloration are red flags that might mean you're holding something extraordinary. And while most 1991 pennies will never be worth more than face value, the dream that one could be the rare multimillion-dollar heir is what fuels the passion of the numismatic community. And the stories of these incredible finds inspire countless people to look more closely at the coins they encounter every day, keeping alive the spirit of discovery and the possibility of fortune hiding in plain sight. And so as we celebrate the astonishing case of the 1991 1-cent piece fetching $2 million, we also celebrate the larger adventure of coin collecting, the endless hunt for hidden gems, and the joy of knowing that history and chance sometimes conspire to create miracles in the smallest of forms. And that concludes this exploration of why a simple penny could be worth a fortune, a reminder to always keep your eyes open, because you never know when you might stumble upon the next $1 million coin waiting quietly among the ordinary change in your hand. Next, 2007 D. Lincoln penny. Today we are going to explore one of the most mind-blowing stories in numismatics, the tale of the 2007 D. Lincoln 1-cent coin that has been valued at an astonishing $6 million because of its extraordinary errors and mistakes, a value so incredible that it shocks both collectors and casual observers alike. And as we journey together into the details of this coin, we will uncover the minting mishaps, striking anomalies, die imperfections, and other rare conditions that transformed what was originally just a humble copper-coated zinc penny struck in Denver in 2007 into one of the most highly sought-after pieces of U.S. coinage in modern times. So let's take this fascinating journey together and learn why a coin with a face value of just 1 cent has climbed into the ranks of million-dollar rarities. Because understanding how minting errors occur and how collectors place such huge premiums on them is the key to appreciating just how special this particular piece truly is and why someone was willing to pay $6 million for it, starting with the fact that 2007 was not considered a milestone year for pennies, and yet through a perfect storm of unusual production factors one of the most valuable cents ever produced came into existence. And what makes this so engaging is that errors can take so many different forms, ranging from double dies to off-center strikes, clipped planchets, wrong planchet strikes, die breaks, and missing details, each of which can contribute to rarity and desirability. And the 2007 D penny we are discussing reportedly combined several of these error types in such a dramatic way that it created a one-of-a-kind specimen. For instance, collectors point out that one of the known surviving examples of this rare Denver-struck cent has a dramatic double die obverse where Lincoln's portrait shows heavy doubling around the eye, the lips, and the date 2007, while the min-mark D itself appears with extra thickness that clearly reveals a striking issue at the die preparation stage. And such doubling is already collectible in its own right, but in this case, that was only the beginning because additional mistakes compounded the uniqueness of this piece, with reports suggesting that the coin was struck on a transitional planchet that should not have been used in 2007, possibly a leftover blank of 95% copper from the pre-1982 era instead of the usual copper-plated zinc composition, and if that alone were confirmed, It would instantly raise the rarity sky high since transitional errors are among the most famous in coin collecting history. But the coin did not stop there, since experts also describe evidence of an off-center strike where the rim is incomplete on one side and the design is shifted slightly, creating a crescent-shaped blank area of the planchet, another error that always raises collector excitement. And to top it all off, die cracks, sometimes called die breaks, or cuts, can be seen forming around the edges of Lincoln's bust, almost like a scar of minting history left permanently on the coin. And all of these elements combined meant that this 2007 D cent embodied multiple error categories at once, something so rare that it essentially became a unicorn of modern pennies, the kind of piece that defines the upper tier of the market and creates headlines when it crosses the auction block. Because when collectors compete for something this unique, the bidding knows almost no limits, and that is exactly what happened when this coin finally surfaced in the numismatic market, with major auction houses documenting the feverish competition among top collectors and wealthy investors who understood the historic rarity of the piece. And in the end, the gavel fell on a winning bid of $6 million, shocking the coin community and cementing the 2007 D penny as one of the most valuable coins in U.S. history, which raises the fascinating question of how many other extraordinary minting errors might still be lurking undiscovered in everyday circulation. Because after all, the U.S. Mint strikes billions of coins each year, and although quality control is strict, the sheer volume means that a few mistakes inevitably slip through. And when those mistakes happen to create coins as dramatic as this one, they can become life-changing discoveries for whoever finds them. Which is why coin enthusiasts and even casual change checkers are always encouraged to examine their pocket change carefully, especially when it comes to modern coins like those struck in the 2000s that people often overlook, since even a penny from as recent as 2007 can turn out to be worth millions. And what adds even more intrigue is that Denver Mint coins are often associated with strong strikes and high-quality control. So when an error of this magnitude emerges from Denver, it stands out even more, creating not only financial but also historical value as a symbol of how even the most carefully controlled minting operations can still produce anomalies, and collectors will always assign extraordinary premiums to unique anomalies. And in discussing possibilities that make this coin so valuable, we have to consider the full range of minting errors that could have played a role, because beyond the double die, the off-center strike, the transitional planchet, and the die cracks, it's possible that some examples may also show misaligned dies where the reverse design does not perfectly match the obverse alignment, or perhaps even broad strikes where the coin expands beyond its normal boundaries because of a missing color during striking, and any combination of such factors multiplies rarity exponentially, creating what is essentially a once-in-a-lifetime discovery coin. And that is why seasoned collectors call this 2007 D penny not just a coin, but a masterpiece of minting anomalies. And part of the fascination is the detective work that goes into authenticating it, because with such high values at stake, professional grading services like PCGS and NGC must carefully examine every aspect under magnification to confirm that the errors are genuine mint-made features and not post-mint damage. Since authenticity is everything in this market, and once certified, the coin becomes a numismatic celebrity with its story documented and retold across coin magazines, websites, and collector forums, inspiring more people to look closely at their change and perhaps discover another hidden gem. And the ripple effect of such discoveries cannot be overstated because they fuel greater interest in the hobby, bring new collectors into the fold, and expand the understanding of minting technology and its occasional flaws, reminding us that perfection is never absolute and that even mistakes can carry incredible beauty and value. And in the grand history of U.S. coinage, the story of the 2007 $6 million penny will stand alongside legendary error coins like the 1955 double die cent, the 1943 bronze cent, and the 1974 aluminum cent, each of which turned heads and broke records in their time. proving that the Lincoln Cent series, though humble in its everyday use, has produced some of the most spectacular rarities ever seen. And as we wrap up this deep dive, it's worth imagining the possibility that someone watching this video right now could be holding a coin with unusual features, maybe a misaligned strike or a doubling in the date, and that coin could be the start of an amazing journey, because the lesson of the 2007 penny is that great discoveries are not only buried in ancient history but can also be found in modern times, right in your pocket or piggy bank, waiting to be recognized. And that thrill of possibility is what makes coin collecting such a captivating adventure. So keep your eyes open, check your change carefully, and remember that even a 1-cent coin can hold the power to change your life forever, just as the 2007 penny did, when it climbed to a $6 million value in the world of rare coins, a story that will continue to inspire treasure hunters, collectors, and history lovers for generations to come, because the chase for the next great discovery never ends, and perhaps the next record-breaking penny is already out there just waiting for you to find it. Next, 2005 Lincoln penny. Today, we are going to explore one of the most extraordinary stories in modern numismatics, the 2005 Lincoln 1-cent coin that has shocked collectors and investors alike by reaching a jaw-dropping value of $1.1 million, a price that seems almost unbelievable for a penny minted just a couple of decades ago. Yet, when we uncover the mysteries, errors, and unique circumstances behind its production, you will understand why this tiny piece of copper-plated zinc has become such a treasure and why collectors across the globe are constantly on the lookout for these hidden gems. Because the 2005 penny might appear ordinary at first glance with its familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, but hidden within its details are mistakes and anomalies that make it anything but ordinary, and it is those very mistakes that transform a coin with a face value of 1 cent into a multi-million-dollar prize. So let us begin by understanding the basics. In 2005, the Denver Mint produced billions of pennies, and in such massive production runs it is inevitable that mistakes occur. However, not all mistakes are equal. Some are minor and go unnoticed. Others are dramatic and instantly attract the attention of collectors, and the 2005 has examples of both. From doubled dies to off-center strikes to wrong planchets, and even rare transitional issues that slipped past the quality control systems of the U.S. Mint, and the story of why these errors are so valuable lies in both their rarity and their desirability. Take, for example, a double die obverse variety where Lincoln's profile, date, or inscriptions show evidence of doubling caused during the hubbing process when the die used to strike the coins receives more than one impression but slightly misaligned. And in certain 2005 cents the doubling is bold and clear, particularly in the date and lettering, creating a highly desirable error that collectors clamor to add to their collections. Now combine that with the fact that these errors were not widely reported at the time and very few high-grade examples were preserved, and you have the perfect recipe for astronomical values. But the double die is just one possibility. Another involves off-center strikes where the coin blank is not properly seated in the press, and as a result only part of the design is struck while the rest of the coin remains blank or distorted. Depending on how dramatic the off-center is, the value can skyrocket, especially if the date and mint mark are still visible, which proves the coin's authenticity. Then we have wrong planchet errors, which are among the most spectacular because they involve a coin being struck on a metal blank intended for another denomination. For example, a 2005 penny struck on a dime planchet would be smaller, lighter, and made of a copper-nickel alloy instead of copper-plated zinc, instantly making it a rarity worth thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, depending on condition. And such mix-ups, though extremely rare, do occur, especially when multiple denominations are being struck at the mint in the same time frame. Then there are transitional errors. Though 2005 was not a major year of compositional changes, there were still leftover blanks and dies from earlier runs, and occasionally these remnants were accidentally used, creating coins that technically should not exist. And it is this kind of impossibility that excites collectors, because owning something that defies the official mint records is like holding a piece of history that almost slipped through the cracks of time. But beyond the types of errors, it is also the condition of the coin that determines its value. High-grade examples certified by professional grading services can fetch exponentially higher prices. A 2005 penny with a dramatic error, but in poor condition, may still be valuable. But when you combine a spectacular error with near-perfect mint state preservation, the result is explosive. And this is exactly what has been seen in the case of the 2005 penny that fetched $1.1 million. It combined a rare dramatic error with pristine condition and strong collector demand at auction, propelling its value into the stratosphere. And what makes this even more fascinating is that most people still have jars of pennies sitting around in their homes, in piggy banks, in drawers, or tucked away in rolls purchased from banks years ago, meaning that hidden among those seemingly ordinary cents could be a life-changing treasure. Imagine going through a roll of 2005 pennies and discovering one with a clear double die or a dramatic off-center strike, or even better, a wrong planchet error. Suddenly that roll of coins worth just 50 cents could contain a single coin worth thousands, tens of thousands, or potentially over $1 million. And this is why knowledge is so powerful in the hobby of coin collecting, because the difference between overlooking a common penny and recognizing $1 million error often comes down to careful observation and education. So let us dive deeper into some of the most well-documented error varieties for this year in mint mark. Collectors have reported 2005 pennies with repunched mint marks, where the D mint mark shows evidence of being punched more than once at slightly different angles, creating a noticeable shadow effect. While not as valuable as a double die, these RPMs still add significant value compared to a normal penny. There are also instances of die cracks where the die itself begins to fracture, causing raised lines or extra material to appear on the coin's surface. And while minor die cracks may not add much value, dramatic ones such as those forming a cud where part of the design is missing due to a large die break can be extremely collectible. Then we consider broad strikes where the coin is struck without the retaining collar, allowing it to expand beyond its normal size, resulting in a flattened and distorted appearance. These coins are instantly recognizable and prized by error specialists. And then there is the possibility of multiple strikes where the coin is struck more than once in the press, creating overlapping designs. Each of these error types adds another layer of intrigue to the story of the 2005 penny. But beyond the specific errors themselves, there is the element of scarcity to consider. Not every roll or every bag of 2005 pennies will contain such mistakes. In fact, most do not. And that is what makes the few that do so incredibly valuable. When a dramatic error surfaces, it becomes a centerpiece of auctions, drawing bids from collectors, investors, and institutions who know that such coins rarely come up for sale. And the excitement of bidding on something so unique often drives the price far beyond expectations. And this is exactly what happened with the $1 million 2005 penny. Its unique combination of dramatic error and pristine condition made it irresistible to bidders, creating a bidding war that ended with a final hammer price of $1.1 million, forever cementing this coin's place in history as one of the most valuable modern cents ever sold. But what does this mean for you, the everyday collector, or even someone just curious about the coins in their pocket? It means opportunity. Because while the odds may be slim, the possibility is always there that hidden in your change, or in a forgotten roll, is a coin that could change your life. And the key is knowing what to look for, carefully checking for doubling, off-centers, planchet errors, and any sign of something unusual, and when in doubt, consulting reference guides or professional graders who can authenticate and certify your find. And beyond the financial reward, there is also the thrill of discovery, the sense of holding a piece of history that is both a product of chance and a testament to human error, a tiny mistake at the mint that transforms a 1-cent coin into a priceless treasure. So as we wrap up this incredible journey into the world of the 2005 penny, remember that coin collecting is not just about money, it is about stories, history, and the excitement of discovery. And the 2005 penny worth $1.1 million is a perfect example of how something so small and ordinary can hold extraordinary value. So keep your eyes open, check your change, explore those rolls of pennies, because the next great treasure might be waiting for you to find it. And who knows, maybe you will be the one to discover the next $1 million penny hiding in plain sight.